Hello and welcome to a look at Matchday II for the Commodore 64. The game was released by Ocean. When it comes to football, it is of course a sport that excites an awful lot of people, and as such it is easy to understand why football games has been made as far back as computers started becoming strong enough to emulate football. I think most people would agree that the first proper football game was likely International Soccer, released by Commodore in 1983 for the Commodore 64. But of course a lot of football games has been released since then. The uniqueness of this particular game is first and foremost its options. You can play one player against the computer or one player against another player. You can also play two players against the computer, which of course would have been rather unique for a game from 1987. You can also alter various different settings, such as the color of the different teams, the names of the different teams, and how the kick-o-meter behaves. More about that in a moment. On top of that, you have the option to play leagues and cups and all sorts of other things with up to 7 players. Obviously not at the same time, but it is all features that adds to the overall appeal of the football game. I mentioned the kick-o-meter just before, and that is another unique feature of this game. If you look at the top middle of the screen, you have this bar filling up, both going forwards and then also have some indicators backwards. And that is actually defining your shot power. And depending on how you set the shot, you can do volleys, you can do lobs, you can do heel kicks, and other sorts of good stuff. And of course you can set up for headers and all sorts of football related things that you would hope for would be possible in a half decent football game. While the kick-o-meter is a unique feature, it is also something that requires a lot of practice to get used to. It is not something that just becomes obviously evident how to make full use of in no time flat. You definitely have to put quite a bit of effort into getting good at using the system. The rules of football, things like offsides are not available, fouls are not available, which means of course that once you lose control of the ball, it is obnoxiously difficult to take possession away from the computer player. And that means that in order to score, you basically need to make sure to pass the ball in such a way that you are constantly in possession of the ball. I'm not saying it's impossible to take the ball away from the computer players, but you're supposed to be able to use this shoulder tackle thingy-wingy, which doesn't seem to do much. Let us cover the technical side of things. Graphically, the football pitch resembles a football pitch as much as you could expect from a game from 1987. And the players, they look a bit special. I'm not particularly fussed about the graphics of the players themselves, but they do look like someone dropped a very heavy weight on top of their heads, causing them to compress slightly. There's a certain level of animation attached to the players, and it is not particularly special or outstanding, but it's suitable for the game, it fits the game, and it gives some sort of life to the game, if you want. The music The title music, certain people absolutely adore and love it. I don't. I don't dislike it either. I can definitely take it or leave it. I don't think it's anything special. I don't think it's anything bad. It suits the game. And that's all I will give it. When it comes to sound effects in general, the general sound effects are perfectly okay. Kicking a ball, whistle, all that kind of stuff. But the sound effect used to emulate an involved crowd, I find to be a bit too close to the sound of an untuned radio from 1930. And that is the sound effect I'm not particularly keen on listening to for any extended periods of time because it threatens to give me a headache. When it comes to controls, they are going to seem to be either sluggish and unresponsive or some of the best football game controls ever made, entirely depending on your proficiency in utilizing the kickometer to its fullest. Personally, I am more towards sluggish and unresponsive, but that is entirely possible that it is due to my lack of desire to master the kickometer. But that is related to the gameplay. I think it is fairly obvious that the pacing of this game is anything but fast. It is actually incredibly slow. But that is a point of contention, apparently. Various commenters have said that this game is incredibly sluggish and unplayable. But you have just as many saying that the pacing of the game allows for proper setups and full utilization of the kickometer and all its subtleties. Who's in the right? I couldn't say. But in my case, it is a bit of a catch-22 scenario. In order to do what I do want to do, I need to do what I don't want to do. And because I really don't want to do what I don't want to do, I will never be able to do what I do want to do. Or in other words, I like a good football game like anyone else. Well, not anyone, I suppose, but you know what I mean. But in order to fully appreciate this particular football game, I need to apparently master the kickometer and all its subtleties. Due to the game's pacing being what it is, I have very little desire to take the time to master the kickometer, and as such my chances of enjoying this game to its full potential is quite minimal. Others' opinions may differ, and they are entirely allowed to. I don't mind. But personally, I like my football games to be just a touch more snappy than this one. On that note, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye for now.